What if a simple online message led you to give away everything you had? A 51-year-old woman from Miami thought she had found love, but instead she was walking straight into the heart of a scam. Maya Cruz, a 51-year-old widow, had spent the last 2 years navigating a life of silence, her heart heavy with grief. Her husband, the love of her life, had passed away unexpectedly, leaving her to face a world that felt far too quiet. With each passing day, she found herself more isolated, trapped in her own memories. Then, one evening, a message arrived that would change everything. A charming man from Dubai, a wealthy real estate mogul, promised her a future filled with excitement, affection, and the love she'd longed for. Maya never could have imagined that the journey to Dubai, a trip she thought would reunite her with the man she believed understood her, would cost her everything emotionally, financially, and personally. The man she trusted would vanish, leaving her with nothing but a shattered heart and an empty bank account. How could someone fall for such an elaborate scam? What did Mia miss along the way? What were the clues she missed? The warning signs that never crossed her mind. As Maya prepares for her trip, her family's warnings echo in the background. But her desire for a new beginning drowns out their concerns. She thinks she's found the perfect escape, unaware that she's stepping into a trap designed just for her. Before the online message, Mia's life had been defined by grief. Her husband, the man who had been her constant for over 2 decades, had passed away suddenly. Since that moment, everything around her seemed quieter, emptier, days blurred together. The warmth of a shared morning coffee, the laughter over dinner, the comfort of having someone beside her in bed gone. Her home was now a hollow echo of what it once was. She spent her time doing the same things every day, watching the news, doing crossword puzzles, and staring at the empty space next to her. On the couch, feeling the weight of her loneliness. Maya's daughter Sophia had watched her mother slip into a quiet world of isolation after her father's death. She had tried to fill the gap, visiting every few weeks, but Mia's growing detachment made it harder. Sophia could see it. The way her mother seemed to fade a little more each day. It was as if Mia had resigned herself to a life without joy. And Sophia knew she needed to step in before it was too late. Before the silence took over, Maya's life had been filled with love. There were dinners at the kitchen table, the two of them laughing over a glass of wine, the sound of his voice calling her name with affection. Their love had been steady, unshakable. One evening, feeling more disconnected than ever, Mia decided to venture online, seeking something, anything, to break the monotony. She joined a social media group for widows, hoping to find others who understood her loss. It was there that she came across a post from a man named Zed Alfars, a real estate developer from Dubai. His post was simple, sharing a stunning photo of Dubai's skyline with a heartfelt message about the beauty of life and the importance of embracing new beginnings. Something about his words resonated with Maya. Something that spoke directly to the loneliness she felt inside. Zed wasted no time reaching out to Maya. His first message was simple, polite, yet deeply personal. I can see that you have a soul as beautiful as the sunset over the Persian Gulf. I too know the weight of loss and I admire your strength. His words were like a balm to Maya's aching heart. Over the next few days, their messages became more frequent and Zed's compliments grew bolder. Your grace is something rare. I can sense the depth of your heart through your words. He spoke with such sincerity. Yet Maya couldn't help but feel an undeniable pull. Zed seemed to understand her grief, her pain. In him, she found someone who truly got her. As their messages deepened, Zed began to share more about himself. He spoke of his success in Dubai's booming real estate market, his wealth, and the luxurious life he had built. But what captured Mia's attention most was his promise. I have everything a man could want, Maya, except for someone to share it with. I want to show you the world. The beauty of Dubai, the finest experiences life has to offer. You deserve to be surrounded by the best. He painted a picture of a future together. One where she would never feel lonely again. And for the first time in years, Maya allowed herself to dream. Zed's words became Maya's anchor, the connection she had longed for. With every message, he wore a narrative of success, loss, and a shared destiny that was too perfect to resist. He spoke of his wealth, not as a boast, but as a means to create a life of comfort and luxury for someone he truly cared about. I've built an empire, but without love to share it with, it feels empty, Zed told her. But then, in a move that deepened their bond, Zed revealed his own grief. I lost my parents in a tragic accident years ago, Maya. Since then, I've been searching for someone to fill the void they left. His words weren't just about his past. They were an invitation to Maya to become part of his future. He wasn't just speaking to her heart. He was speaking to her need for connection, for love, for someone who would truly understand her. As Zed's stories of luxury and longing continued, he began to paint a picture of a life that seemed impossible yet so alluring. He sent Maya photos of Dubai, each one more breathtaking than the last. Golden sunsets over the Persian Gulf, towering skyscrapers illuminated by city lights, and palatial resorts with sprawling pools. This is the life I want to share with you, Maya. Dubai is more than a city. It's where dreams are made real. And with you by my side, we will build our own fairy tale. His words were like a siren song. And Maya couldn't resist. He was giving her the promise of something bigger than herself. A new life, a future filled with love and adventure. With every new message, Zed skillfully blurred the lines between reality and fantasy. Imagine us together, he wrote. One night, walking along the beach at sunset, the world at our feet, our hearts beating in unison. This is our destiny, Maya. I have waited my entire life for this moment. His Romantic descriptions were more than just promises. They were an invitation to a life that seemed almost too perfect to be true. As Mia's connection with Zia deepened, so did Sophia's concern. Her mother, once grounded and pragmatic, seemed to be losing herself in a world of promises and messages from a man she had never met. The more Maya shared about Zed, the luxury, the romance, the more Sophia grew uneasy. She had seen how quickly things could spiral. "Mom, you don't even know this guy. It's all happening too fast," Sophia said one evening over dinner, her voice filled with worry. But Maya, her excitement clouding her judgment, brushed off her daughter's concerns. As the days went on, Sophia's warnings became more frequent. Every time she brought up her doubts, Maya's response was the same. Dismissive, defensive, almost as if any critique of Zed felt like a personal attack on her happiness. She had convinced herself that Zed was her chance at something more, something meaningful, something real. And anyone who questioned it was simply trying to steal that away. As the relationship between Maya and Zed progressed, Maya's excitement was tempered by an ever-growing sense of unease. Zed, though consistently affectionate in his messages, began to make excuses to avoid video calls. "My laptop is broken," he claimed. "I'm in a meeting or I'm out of the country on business." Maya, desperate to see the man she had been dreaming of, began to notice the pattern. Every time she asked for a video call, something seemed to come up. At first, she dismissed the missed calls and delayed responses as simple inconvenience, something that could be overlooked for the sake of their connection. As Mia's doubt simmered beneath the surface, Sophia's concern reached a boiling point. She had been watching her mother grow more distant, and now the signs were harder to ignore. "Mom, this isn't right," Sophia said one night after Maya once again excused Zed's inability to connect face to face. "He's avoiding you. He's making excuses not to see you in person. This isn't how it's supposed to be." But Maya, too, caught up in her own hopes, brushed it off, unwilling to face the truth that her relationship might be built on nothing more than lies. Sophia knew this could end badly, but she wasn't sure how to break through the wall of hope Maya had built around herself. Every conversation about Zed felt like a defense against the truth, and every excuse from Maya only deepened Sophia's growing dread. As their relationship continued to deepen, the next phase of Zed's manipulation began. An unexpected emergency. Zed contacted Maya one evening with urgent news. "My love, I need your help. I'm in a tight spot here in Dubai. The government is requiring additional travel expenses for me to finalize our meeting plans. Without this, I won't be able to come to you." He painted the picture of a bureaucratic nightmare. Red tape that was preventing him from booking his flight and meeting her in person. Maya, despite the subtle alarm bells ringing in her head, felt her trust in him solidify. She had already invested so much emotionally, and now the promise of a future with him Felt real, almost tangible. Zed's message came with a follow-up voice. Note, his voice filled with urgency and gratitude. Maya, you have no idea how much this means to me. I can't wait to be with you, to share everything with you. But I need you to trust me. This is temporary. Once you arrive, I'll reimburse every penny. It's part of our future together. I promise. His words, full of affection and promises of love, clouded Maya's judgment. The thought of finally being with him, of leaving the loneliness behind, overpowered any doubts she might have had. She wanted to believe in him. She needed to believe in him. As the dates for their meeting drew closer, Zed's requests began to escalate. The promises of love and a bright future were still there. But now, they came with mounting pressure. Maya. My love, there's an unexpected complication with the visa process. The government requires special processing fees to ensure your entry into Dubai. This is a final step before we can finally meet. His words carried a sense of urgency, almost desperation that made Maya feel like she was running out of time. His tone softened in later messages. I know this is a lot to ask, but it's necessary for us to be together. I promise once you're here, you'll see how much this will mean. She felt torn. He had promised her everything, and she was so close to the life she had been longing for. Was this just another obstacle, or was this truly the last step in bringing their love to reality? Maya's emotions were torn. She had already sent money once, believing in the future Zed had promised. But now, with these new fees, doubts started to creep in. Was this normal? Was Zed truly in need, or was he taking advantage of her? She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being manipulated. But her hope for a life with him, for the love he had shown her, kept her from backing out. Zed had been so sincere, so kind, and the idea of walking away now seemed impossible. The moment Maya finally booked the flight, it felt like a dream come true. After months of anticipation, of emotional investment, and of Zed's promises, she was on her way to meet him. But even as she finalized the flight details, a nagging feeling lingered. She tried to push it aside. After all, this was the moment she had been waiting for. But somewhere deep down, doubts began to creep in. Was this real? Was Zed truly who he said he was? Maya took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. She had made up her mind. Nothing could stop her now. Zed was waiting for her in Dubai, and she was about to take the leap of faith she had dreamed about for so long. Sophia had been watching her mother from the sidelines. But this time, her concern couldn't be ignored. Mom, please. I know you want this to be real, but I'm scared. You're about to fly halfway across the world to meet a man you've never met. What if this is a mistake? Sophia's voice cracks full of genuine worry. She had hoped that Maya would change her mind, that the reality of this decision would hit her before it was too late. But Maya, already deep into the fantasy, wasn't listening anymore. She had made up her mind. As Maya steps onto the plane, the weight of the choices she's made presses heavily on her shoulders. She's about to board a flight that will take her thousands of miles away from everything she knows and into a future that might just cost her everything. Maya's heart raced as the plane touched down in Dubai. She had imagined this moment for months. The glamour, the luxury, the man of her dreams waiting for her. She had envisioned herself stepping off the plane to be greeted by Zed in a sleek limousine, whisked away to a life of opulence. But when she walked into the arrivals area, the reality was different. No chauffeur in a sharp suit. No luxury car waiting to take her to a private villa. Instead, a young driver, wearing a simple shirt and khakis, held a handwritten sign with her name. Zed had promised her luxury, but the driver, though polite, seemed ordinary. The car, a far cry from the extravagant vehicles she had pictured, was modest and unremarkable. Maya's mind briefly flashed back to the messages Zed had sent. Luxurious cars, private jets, the Burj Khalifa. She thought of the lavish lifestyle he described. Could this be a misunderstanding? Maybe Zed was just busy with work and this was all part of the plan to eventually show her the best of Dubai. She told herself not to overthink it. After all, he was still waiting for her. Everything would be fine. Despite the discrepancies, Maya continued to tell herself that this was just the beginning. She'd seen the photos, heard the promises. This was just a temporary moment of doubt. She convinced herself once she was with Zed, everything would fall into place. This was just a minor detour on the way to the life she had dreamed of. Her heart beat with anticipation as the car made its way through the streets of Dubai. Each passing moment pushing her closer to the life she believed was waiting for her. Maya's excitement quickly began to turn to confusion as the hours passed. And Zed never showed up. She had imagined this moment, the first meeting, so vividly. But now, sitting alone in a hotel room that wasn't the luxurious palace she expected, she felt a growing sense of doubt. Zed's messages, though affectionate, became increasingly distant. "I'm sorry, my love. There's an urgent business meeting with the royal family. I promise I'll see you soon. Please be patient." Every excuse sounded plausible at first, but as time stretched on, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. This wasn't the grand romantic reunion she'd envisioned. The hotel, while nice, was nothing like the luxury resort Zad had promised. She had imagined herself arriving in a glamorous 5-star paradise, a place fit for royalty. But the reality was far more modest. The room was clean, comfortable, but there were no signs of the opulence Zed had painted for her. No grand suite with panoramic views. No personal touches or extravagant decor. Instead, it was a standard business hotel. Luxury, yes. But not the dream she had been sold. Every time Maya checked her phone, there was no word from Zed. She had arrived in Dubai full of hope. But now she was left alone in a hotel room trying to convince herself that everything would be fine. Maybe Zed was really busy. Maybe there was a delay. She told herself that the trip wasn't over and her dream would still come true. But the cracks in the fantasy were beginning to show and Maya couldn't ignore them for much longer. As the days wore on and Zed remained absent, his demands escalated. The messages, once affectionate and loving, now carried an unmistakable sense of urgency. One morning, Maya woke up to a new message from Zed. One that would change everything. My love, there's a critical situation I must handle. The royal family's business requires a substantial sum to proceed. I need $75,000 to secure the final deal and our future together. The words hit Maya like a ton of bricks. He explained that this was the final obstacle, the last step. Before they could finally be together. Before they could start building the life they had dreamed of. Maya sat there, staring at her phone, torn between doubt and hope. Everything she had been promised was within her grasp. And yet, the price seemed steep. But Zed had made it clear this was the last hurdle. If she didn't send the money, the future they both wanted might never happen. She thought about the life they had talked about, the love they had shared. This was the moment that would define everything. She believed in him. She had to. As the wire transfer went through, Maya reassured herself. Zed had promised her everything. This money was an investment in their future together. She told herself he would reimburse her, and soon they would finally be together. But as she sat there waiting for his response, an uneasy feeling began to settle in the pit of her stomach. The silence was deafening. Maya's heart raced as she walked into the U.S. consulate in Dubai, still holding on to the fragile belief that Zed was only delayed by work. She had just wired $75,000, trusting in his promises of love and a future together. But as she sat across from the consular officer, the truth began to unravel in front of her. The officer, speaking in calm, measured tones, began explaining something that would shatter everything Maya thought she knew. The man you've been in contact with doesn't exist. His photos were stolen from a legitimate businessman named Khaled Benzt. The documents he sent you were fabricated. This is a classic romance scam. As the consular officer spoke, Maya's mind flashed back to everything Zed had promised her. The luxury hotels, the wealth, the life they were supposed to share. Every word, every picture, every declaration of love now felt like a carefully crafted illusion. The photos of Dubai's skyline, the shots of him in front of expensive cars, the voice notes telling her she was his queen, they were all part of a web of lies. Maya couldn't breathe as the full scope of what had happened began to settle in. The money she had sent, the plans she had made, none of it was real. The man she had fallen in love with, the future she had built in her mind was a fabrication. She had been scammed, manipulated by a professional predator who knew exactly how to exploit her loneliness and her hope for a second chance at love. She felt a wave of nausea sweep over her. How could she have been so blind? How could she have trusted him so completely? Maya's inner voice filled with despair echoes in the background. How could I have been so stupid? How could I not see it? Everything he said, everything he promised. It was all a lie. Maya's heart sank as the full extent of what had just happened hit her. She had wired $75,000. The money that had once been her security, her lifeline, and now it was gone. The life savings she had built for herself, the last bit of financial stability she had left after losing her husband had vanished into the hands of a man who never existed. Her thoughts spiraled, the guilt of her decision sinking deep. How could she have been so blind? How could she have trusted a man she had never even met? The crushing weight of the loss settled in her chest, suffocating her with every breath. Maya's entire world felt like it was crumbling. She had believed in a fantasy, a dream, and now the pieces of that illusion scattered around her like shattered glass. The emotions were overwhelming: grief for the loss of her late husband, the heartbreak of betrayal, and the hopelessness of losing everything she had worked so hard to protect. There was no way to recover the money. No one could help her. She had trusted a lie and now had nothing to show for it. Maya's voice filled with despair echoes softly in the background. I've lost everything. How could I have been so foolish? I trusted him. I trusted this dream. And now it's all gone. What am I supposed to do now? Maya sat in the quiet hotel room, her phone in her hands, staring at the screen for what felt like an eternity. She knew it was time. She had been avoiding this moment, not wanting to burden her daughter with the truth. But now the weight of her actions was too much to carry alone. Slowly, her finger hovered over Sophia's contact and with a deep breath, she dialed the number. As the phone rang, Mia's heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know where to start. How do you explain to the person you love most in the world that you've made a mistake so big it feels impossible to fix? Maya's voice cracked as she spoke, the tears starting to well up in her eyes. Sophia, I've made a mistake. A big one. I've been scammed. He was never who he said he was. Everything. All the money I sent, it's gone. I trusted him. I was so sure of it. Her words spilled out in a rush. And with each sentence, the truth became harder to bear. Maya could feel the weight of her regret crushing her chest. She had ignored all the warning signs. And now, everything she had believed in, everything she had hoped for was shattered. Maya's voice choked with emotion fills the space as she speaks. One last time. I don't know how to fix this, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right. Maya sat in the cramped airplane seat, her hands folded tightly in her lap. The flight back to Miami felt like the longest journey of her life. The promise of a new beginning, of love, and of a future in Dubai had dissolved into a nightmare. The $75,000 was gone. Her heart was broken, and the life she had envisioned now seemed like a distant, unattainable dream. Her eyes gazed out the small airplane window. The clouds below, a soft white sea as the plane cut through the sky. The realization hit hard. She was returning with nothing but memories of the man she had believed in. A man who never existed. Maya's plane touched down in Miami, and the harsh reality of her return began to set in. The bustling airport felt foreign now. She had come here once, full of hope and excitement, ready to meet the love of her life. Now, all she had were empty promises and the weight of financial ruin. She walked through the terminal, her steps heavy. The noise of the crowd around her fading into the background. She could feel the sting of the tears that had already been shed. But she had no more left to give. It was over. As Maya stood there finally, face to face with her daughter, the weight of everything seemed to come crashing down. The tears she had been holding back since the moment she stepped off the plane finally broke free. Sophia's arms enveloped her, offering comfort that Maya had been craving for so long. The emotional barrier that had kept Mia distant from her daughter during their phone calls broke down in an instant. There were no words, only the tight squeeze of a mother and daughter holding on to each other, sharing the grief and the relief of being reunited. Maya's return to Miami wasn't the end of her journey. It was just the beginning of a much harder road ahead. The loss, both emotional and financial, weighed heavily on her. Each day felt like a battle with guilt, shame, and a haunting sense of betrayal. The $75,000 was gone. And the man she had trusted had been nothing but a ghost. But it wasn't just the money. It was the feeling of being fooled, of losing her sense of self, of not being able to see through the lies. Maya often found herself staring at the walls, trying to make sense of how she had let herself fall so deeply into something so false. The sadness lingered, but slowly Maya realized she couldn't let this be the end of her story. Maya's journey to healing wasn't quick. It wasn't easy. But it was necessary. With the support of her daughter Sophia and her counselor, she began to work through the feelings of guilt and shame that had consumed her. Each day she took small steps to rebuild her life. Starting with forgiving herself, she realized that her need for connection, her search for love and comfort was not the reason she had been scammed. It was the predators who preyed on that vulnerability. She wasn't foolish. She was human. And that was something she had to learn to accept. Maya's journey eventually led her to something even more powerful. A sense of purpose. What began as a painful lesson turned into a mission to help others avoid falling into the same trap. She became an advocate for those affected by romance scams. Speaking out at support groups, offering advice on how to recognize the signs and helping people rebuild their lives after betrayal. She knew all too well the devastation that could be caused by people who preyed on the vulnerable. And she was determined to make sure no one else had to experience the same heartbreak. Maya's voice, steady and reflective, fills the screen as the final message echoes. What happened to me doesn't define me. What defines me now is how I use my story to help others. I've learned to heal, to forgive myself, and to turn my pain into something meaningful. And so can you. If Maya's story has hit home, don't let yourself or your loved ones fall into the same trap. Watch out for these red flags and share this video to help others protect themselves. The next Jessica could be someone you know. Let's stop the scammers together. Subscribe, share and stay informed.